Yo, that was hilarious. Mark, we had a good day in here today.
That's what's up, man. It's been a good week.
All right, forget it.
See? I'm not doing this, yo.
Never mind.
I'm just saying it's a good string of shows. It's good. I like the rhythm.
A run, yeah, it's a good run.
It's a good run.
Yeah.
Sometimes you hit a
Sometimes you
What's
get
wrong with y'all, yo?
What the
Nothing.
I can't compliment us?
Yes, compliment.
Anyway.
Compliment.
Anyway.
What's good, YouTube? It's your boy Elevation here with another episode of the JBP Elevated, where we speak on the Joe Budden podcast and all of his co-hosts on and off the pod.
Oh, Lord. I'm nervous now. Melyssa, I've been trying to cover for you. I've been trying to shield you. But very early on in today's Patreon episode, it was made very clear to me, that Marc Lamont Hill called for you to be suspended or for something to happen. I keep going back to the moment where Melyssa blew up, or she was frustrated because they didn't pay attention to her joke that she played and have a segment on it, but then had the segment later on. I keep noting that Marc Lamont Hill left after that segment, and during her blow up, quote unquote, his face was incredulous. And I just mentioned that, saying Joe needs to apologize and stop acting crazy around Marc. I never would have thought that Melyssa could get him to that point. So when people say Marc is pandering, there might be some truth behind that, because he clearly called for Melyssa to get suspended. Why would he say that? Why would he note that these last couple of pods have been flowing? Melyssa, I went to your page before I made this video. You still haven't uploaded anything. I sincerely hope that you are working on season 2 of Hot and Bothered, because things are not looking good for you at the JBP. And if Marc called for you to be suspended and you actually did get suspended, it scares me. It scares me that Marc has that much pull already. I was just speaking on Ian and how we need to start pocket watching Ian, but we also need to start paying attention to the relationships that Ian has outside of Joe too. Who is Ian vibing with the most on BTS? These niggas have whole segments together. Marc and Ian. Marc is already contributing to the pod more than all the other co-hosts. And if Marc is able to make these decisions, I'm very nervous for what's going on. But that's also telling, because Marc, if he has this pull, and he said what he said about Ish, saying that Ish has the potential to be the B mic because his voice is the most powerful outside of Joe, what were Joe and Marc talking about behind the scenes? Because Joe didn't want it to be known that he was talking about anything with Marc. He was like, hey nigga, keep me out of this. He was talking about all the co-hosts and the lack of things that they bring to the show. What if Marc was like, I'll come on if X happens or if YZ happens? Full time. And also, are we paying attention to the amount of times Marc has been on the Patreon? I know when he was a guest, he started off on Patreon, but when he actually, or was officially a part of the JBT or JBP team, he was starting off on the main episodes, doing once every other week type shit, or once out of the 2 days of the week. But now he's on all the Patreons. Pay attention, because I notated that Joe's gonna try to finagle a way to have Marc on the Patreon so more people will subscribe, because of the influence that he's already shown on the show. We gotta pay attention to that. But Melyssa, I'm nervous. Out of all the people you need to pay attention to on the show currently, it's going to be Marc Lamont Hill. Because you heard what I said about the intellectuals. That stands with Melyssa too, apparently. Stands with Melyssa too. And if I'm Melyssa, I'm paying attention to that, because he's always on my side publicly. But if he's the one to call for me getting suspended, I have to look at you entirely different. But I have to call a spade a spade. They have been vibing. I haven't been speaking positively on the show because I've been calling out everything that negatively affects the show. But let's be honest, they have been vibing. Shout out to Ice. Not only was he able to take a huge moment as far as jokes in his direction, he took it in stride. I even texted my brother. I was like, damn, Ice took that shit in stride. He came out on a Patreon firing. What he said about Ish when he got shot, that shit was hilarious. They have been vibing. That's also not a good look for Melyssa. But I can't help but notice that Imani spoke on BTS about subscription, about getting people to pay for him. Imani, you have to build your audience up first before you start coming out with subscription. I'm happy you're taking the advice that was given to you, but take some more of it. If you're going to charge for anything at the moment, what I advise you do, and I haven't looked, so you might already be doing this, I apologize if you are. What I advise you do is to build or start a Cameo account. If you think people are already willing to pay for your subscription based off of what you're saying, see if people will pay you just to have personalized messages first. Because if you can get $5, $10, $15, $20 off per call or per message, then that would entice me to start a subscription model. But you can't start off the bat with that. At least put out something from the podcast first and then turn to that model. But that's the only bit of advice I'm going to give you today. I just heard that on BTS, and I normally don't pay attention to BTS, but I had to go back because Marc, Lamont Hill and Ian have developed a relationship. And y'all know how I feel about Ian and all the cards that he has to pull. Don't let Marc get too close to Ian. If I'm anyone on that podcast, especially Ish, I'm not letting Marc get close to Ian like that. And you know who's paying attention to this the most? Flip. Flip will be monitoring how much Marc interacts with Joe and Ian behind the scenes. And he'll try his hardest to bring it to the light. So we definitely got to be paying attention to all these movements. Whenever new people come onto the job, you pay attention to them, because if they get power too quickly, you're going to wonder why they got that power so fast. The same thing's happening right in front of our eyes with Marc Lamont. But it was very, very telling that he decided to say that openly, even though it's on the Patreon. But he said that for a reason. Niggas is sowing these seeds, dog. They sowing these seeds. But I appreciate y'all. I am coming back out with another episode today because they talking about going live, and I wanted to get deeper on it without putting it on this video. So y'all stay tuned for that. I appreciate everybody tapping in like always. Like the video if you like the video. Make sure you subscribe to the page if you haven't. And if you have, I appreciate you as always. Let's engage, man. Get them comments up. I love chatting with y'all back and forth, and I love that we all engage with each other. So let's keep that shit up. Y'all be safe out here, man. I'll see y'all later today. Peace.